So now, comrades, I want to spend just a few minutes because it is important that you have a sense of what this Barbados Labour Party stands for and the broad vision which we must have. I believe, sir, that there are a few things that we must address. The Barbados economy has been well shepherded for most of the last 40 years, and certainly the last 14 up to 2007. But past successes do not foretell future success. The world has changed. It will no longer be enough for us as Barbadians to keep our house in order. We now have to contend with the success of other countries and other people. Hitherto, we could focus on a problem locally and fix it. Today, we have to be cognizant that we live in a world which is interdependent and that people have choices as to where they can visit, invest, and with whom they can trade. So that we have to make sure that we maintain our quality of life by receiving our share of international investment, tourists, and skills. For 40 years, we delivered 3 to 4% growth in economic activity, and this was enough to sparkle us to stand out in our neck of the woods. Some of our neighbors like Jamaica and Guyana stagnated over this period. And in Latin America, at times many appeared to be at the edge of social revolution or military intervention. Our levels of growth compared well to the large developed economies at the time. But something has happened recently. In the last few years, the emerging economies have shifted a couple gears. China and India, once desperately poor countries, are now growing at rates that are almost double-digit every year. And last year, a poor year for growth in the global economy, growth averaged for some 80 countries at more than 5% evenly across the developed world and developing world. 25 of these countries were in Africa. So that while Barbados grew at 0.2%, 80 countries in the world grew at 5% or more. We may question whether growth is well distributed. But the point is that when investors are looking for investments around the world, or talented professionals and managers consider what job to apply for, people decide on the basis of what they think is successful. So that if we are no longer perceived to be successful, then we will lose the opportunities. We have, therefore, to do and to come to terms with these things, that our growth is now below much of the rest of the world. The successful image will attract success. The image of a dynamic, fast-growing opportunity abroad will lure other of our citizens to those countries abroad instead of them wanting to stay here. And that is a distinct danger. And the example of other small developing countries doing well must cause us to reimagine our future. We can no longer be content with chipping away at poverty or inequality and national development at a rate of 3% per year. We have now to be aiming in the next decade for 5 to 10% of growth as other developing countries across the world are doing. The reality is that that kind of growth will provide the kind of resources to put the kind of social programs that ordinary Barbadians want in place without putting in peril the economy of this country, as the Democratic Labour Party is doing. We need national development strategies that allow us to recognize that we can make first place, because there is no room in this world for those who make second place. We must not simply play the game, we must play to win. I believe that there is no room for pedestrians on this highway of growth in the global economy. I believe that there is no room for jobless growth. And we need strategies that don't only make us good at tourism, that don't only make us good as international business, but that make us the best that we can possibly be in these sectors. And I say to you that there is nothing that stops us from achieving this ambition. In tourism, every square foot that we devote to tourism must now count. And we have no physical room for second best. We must have a mix of not only our indigenous product, but the highest quality global brands and the local boutiques that will cause us to be known for excellence. Excellence in the tourism experience, excellence in employee training, excellence in management, excellence in creativity. We need also to use this crisis to rethink our international financial services sector, to make sure that we broaden simply from tax efficiency for Canadian firms. We need to be able to use regulation as our most effective marketing tool. Not too much, not too little, but the right effective regulation in order to be the best that we can be. And we left plans on the ground for that. We need to energize our private sector to help them play a critical role in helping us reach the 5% growth that is necessary for us to maintain our quality of life. We need a new class of economic entrepreneurs who will help us democratize the ownership of capital in this country. We are a place of stability and cohesion, and we will continue to be. But let us not misinterpret that to be a place where the status quo is to remain indefinitely, and our sons and daughters are to be content with that. Our development strategy needs to be redefined. We currently import $3.4 billion a year in goods, and we earn only $2.2 billion in goods and services exported. We have a $1 billion deficit. We have been able to finance that deficit before the Dems came in, largely through the attraction of foreign capital to this country. But I am still young enough to know that tourism has a carrying capacity limit, and there is only so much more land that can fuel that kind of foreign investment for the development of real estate projects. At 44, I know that we must now prepare ourselves for alternative economic sectors which in 10 years' time will be earning for the Barbadian public. We therefore need to have a more diversified international business sector, exploiting the talents of our artists, our sportsmen, our educators, our health practitioners. We need to make the offshore energy sector a reality rather than simply talking about it. And we need to recognize that small businesses will predominantly be our future in this country. Let us support them. We need to have our enterprises seeing CARICOM investment and investment wider afield as their natural domain, be it Belize, Suriname or Guyana. And that's what makes so tragic what David Thompson has been doing earlier this year. The truth is that once we go, particularly to Brazil, to Guyana and Suriname, it immediately opens up the Brazilian market, where northern Brazil has been growing at more than 10% a year, is only 400 miles from the Caribbean coast, 1,100 miles from Sao Paulo, which is only growing at 4%, while northern Brazil grows at 11%. It will change the economics of the southern and eastern Caribbean for the next few decades. That is what we need to be doing. We must understand that our stability, our commitment to the rule of law, our strong appreciation for social justice, our access to education have been the bedrock upon which Barbadians have seen progress. And this is normally, for us, been anchored by a competent public service and a political class who has made many sacrifices. But we have now to recognize that we need to understand that you cannot have a 20th century government and a 20th century politics for a 21st century population. The systems of our government must be more responsive to our citizens, irrespective of who they are. Every citizen, rich or poor, black or white, employer, employee, pensioner, or otherwise, deserves effective government. And if it means that it takes us a while to get it done, we must get it done, because if not, people lose confidence in their governments. Our politics must be strategic and less tribal. Our politics must recognize that